Know how this works. We are live here with the first ever episode from Gianluca and Dylan.
Yes.
This is a dream come true, which has been a dream that lasted, less than a week. We've been working through Instagram lives and lots of ideas. So obviously, first of all, bear with us if you see any problems and inconveniences, because this is still an experiment for both of us. So we appreciate your support, but obviously bear with us, and we're here to talk some football. So my name is Gianluca Dylan with me, sports journalist that wants to become a journalist, a coach that wants to become a journalist. So basically a great couple. Today we will start with the Euro 2020 last 16 games. We have plenty of interesting matchups.
Yep.
And let's start with today's games. Let's start with Wales Denmark immediately. So let's start with you. Have your take on this game?
Well, Wales-Denmark, I think, is probably one of the fixtures that most people won't look at because it's not two. It's not two major nations. Wales-Denmark is probably going to be one of the better fixtures, in my opinion, in the last 16. Yes, Denmark had a home advantage in the group stage. They had 3 matches at home. There's 9 previous meetings between these two teams, 5 Denmark wins, 4 Wales wins, no draws, so there might not be penalties. Obviously, penalties are lovely to see, but could rule this one out if you go by history. I do fancy Denmark here. Wales are very, very, very defensive team, especially as you look at their stats. I think they've got the least crosses, they've got the least amount of passes in the whole competition. That includes teams like Ukraine, North Macedonia, very, very on the ball poor teams. I like Denmark. I fancy Denmark for this one. Højbjerg is the top assist, has joint top assists in the competition so far. And also they've had 61 shots at goal. That's more than any other country. That includes Italy, who are in second, and Sweden, who are in Switzerland, who are in third. Also, they've got the third most attacks behind Italy and Spain. They're also very good on transition. They do recover the ball quite well. They're 4th overall in stats there, 144 ball recoveries. So I do see Denmark winning this one more comfortably than people probably think. I'm going to go 2-0 Denmark. Just be kind to Wales.
2-0 Denmark. Okay. From my end, Wales Denmark is an interesting matchup. Today it's exactly 29 years since Denmark won in 1992, so there are some 1992 vibes as well in the Denmark camp. And obviously Denmark's goalkeeper back then was Peter Schmeichel, who is the father of the current goalkeeper as well. So I love these facts, these superstitions. Wales, to be fair, they did a good job to qualify from this group. No, it wasn't an easy group for them. Italy, Turkey, Switzerland, they were all, higher in the rankings than them, much quoted, and they have maybe better players on paper as well. No, they got a lot of players who play in the best league across the world, across Europe mainly. So to qualify from this group and doing it as a second, as the second team, and almost they qualified with a game in hand. To be fair, that speaks about the group cohesiveness that there is in this team. No. Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale obviously the main players in this team. They still provide glimpses of quality, even though Gareth Bale is still the same person of 5 years ago, maybe. Especially his change of speed, a change of pace, a change of direction, and these kind of things. That explosiveness maybe is not with him anymore, but I still think that they can be helpful, as they did against Wales, for example, as they did against Turkey, for example. Ramsey is proving even more decisive for them with his late runs, with his, qualities in the midfield.
It's always been his strength, yeah.
His box entries are always the best, and even though the experiment as a false nine maybe didn't work against Italy, he can still maybe be helpful in that position as well, to not give a reference point. Even though they have Moore up front, who's basically did really good in this Euro so far. They've always have that unsung hero up front, like Harrobson Khan now, Moore as well. So, and then there are a couple of interesting stories as well in the Wales camp with Dan Ward, who is second to Schmeichel at Leicester, and in this Euros he's proved more than useful.
Yeah, so he's got the second most saves. Yeah,
this could be a good showcase for him to move to a better club, or actually move to a club where he can become number one. And Ben Davies, who back in 2001 was with Viborg, I hope that I pronounce it correctly, in Denmark with the team, because his dad used to work there. It was a mini exile kind of, and he's some kind of a cult hero back there. And obviously, since he moved back to Wales and then played in the Premier League and everything, he got more attention on him in Denmark. So it'd be interesting to see how Danish supporters will look at him during the game as well.
I think Danny Ward has been very reliable for Wales. I think they've had to depend on him, on his saves a lot. I mean, as I just said, he has got the second most saves in the competition. It's going to be an interesting matchup, that's for sure. And I do see Roberts against Marler being very key. Marler, Maley, however you want to pronounce it. Roberts has been very, very good for Wales too, but I think Maley might be a bit too much for him. He's completed 15 dribbles, has Marley, 15 successful dribbles. That's second more than anyone, only second to Mbappe. I think Denmark are very left side heavy, whereas Wales are sort of very compact. Wales will rely on the counter attack. You got Ramsey, Joel, and Morel in the middle, playing in behind. I see more starting. I think the predicted lineup will probably be a 4-3-3 on paper. Probably 4-5-1 on pitch with more up front, depending on the counter attacks. And then Chris Mepham on the left, who is an extremely good left back in my opinion. Ben Davies next to him, who was rested against Italy. So I definitely expect Davies to play alongside Roldan in the middle.
And speaking about now going back to Denmark, I had a good feeling about them progressing very much in this tournament. They have a very good squad. They have a lot of quality players, and although they are missing now Christian Eriksen, who maybe is their technical leader in terms of skill set, I think they can still progress, given also especially the bracket they are in now. But the first game was a bit different due to what happened. But in the second game, especially in the first half against Belgium, they really played like a big team. They really played in a way that they know the system. They know what it takes to be, a major team in such a competition. And then the concern maybe when they face, better players on the field, because when De Bruyne came on the second half, he changed a bit the game, and Denmark, struggled maybe to cope with that quality, even though they could still have drawn the game, particularly in the later stages of it. In my opinion, they have one of the best goalkeepers in the world, so that is always, an insurance for security, having a good goalkeeper at the back. And in Simon Kjær, they have a leader. He really improved, especially when he returned to Italy at Milan. And as you mentioned, obviously Maley is an interesting player to look at. He's been doing really good in Serie A with Atalanta. So for me, who watches a lot of Serie A, it wasn't really a surprise, but I was still pleased to see him doing well on the stage. They have players like Vestergaard as well, who has Premier League experience, and that always proves important against
British teams.
These type of opponents, and in this case, British opponents as well. In the midfield, they have two important backbones in Thomas Delaney and Pierre Højbjerg, to be fair. Maybe they are not mentioned a lot, but they really do a lot of work, especially Delaney. With his runs, with his work ethic, his commitment in the midfield, helping to progress the ball forward. And Højbjerg is obviously important, especially in set-piece situations. No, he may have missed the penalty in the first game, but this game was a bit false. So I don't really look into it a lot. And up front, there is Damsgaard of Sampdoria, who has replaced Eriksen very well.
Spectacularly.
And in Serie A, he's good, but I didn't expect that he would, take the Euros by storm, literally, because his skill set, his shooting, his goals, his dribbling, he really gives a different dynamism to the team up front. And with Eriksen out and Damsgaard in, even more so, playing up front alongside Pauls and Braithwaite, he gives more references point to the Denmark's attack, but at the same time makes the attack more unpredictable as well. Because to be fair, in the attack there isn't a number 9. The real number 9, Jonas Wind, is on the bench. A lot has been expected on him, but he hasn't played a minute, I think, in this game, or maybe came on late in the second half against Finland. And with Damsgaard, Pauls and Braithwaite, they may switch a lot of positions. Pauls might drop back, use the width. So with Denmark, I think they will have a lot of possession this game now. So it will make it difficult for ways from that point of view. I go for Denmark win as well, 2-1. So
I agree with you on the unpredictability. He does bring so much unpredictability into the Denmark team in a positive way. And it's something Wales haven't faced yet, because Wales have faced a very direct Turkey team. They faced a very stubborn Swiss team who play direct football with Mbolo up top. And they also played Italy, who were sort of off the pedal a bit because they'd already qualified, and all Italy needed was a draw. I can't see anything other than a Denmark win today. I really do hope Wales do something, but Denmark were my dark horses before the tournament, and I'll stick to my original thoughts. 2-0 Denmark.
So speaking of Italy, Austria may look as a one-sided affair, but would like to know your thoughts about that.
Again, it's on paper, it's probably the most one-sided fixture in the last 16. You've got a very, very good Italy team, probably the best team since the World Cup win. As a unit, they are extremely good. They're probably the best unit in the competition. Against an Austria team who were quite the opposite at the start of the tournament. The first two matches, they were very disjointed. They were very poor in possession. They lost the ball several times against okay opposition, but not very good opposition. But in the last game, they fixed up against Ukraine. They had 19 shots. That's more than they had against North Macedonia. Italy have got a very strong record against Austria, as you could imagine. Austria only beating Italy once, and I looked at it, and it was in 1912. So that was more than 100 years ago. So I think that comes into the irrelevant category. The only problem for Italy is probably the absence of Chiellini. I think he'll be injured. I think he's out. I did hear a journalist mention that he hasn't been training fully.
He's out unless he passes a
fitness test.
Late before the game,
and Florenzi, who obviously Di Lorenzo will come in for. The question mark will be Verratti in the middle. Would you play Verratti over Locatelli, over Jorginho, over Barella? I don't think so. I personally, don't get me wrong, Verratti's world class. But I personally wouldn't change the midfield three, especially against Austria. I'd keep it there, get the chemistry going a bit more. They gelled well in the first two matches, so why not keep it the same?
It's true. From an Italy perspective, that could be true, but Verratti has been a regular starter for the side, and heading into this tournament, he should have started this tournament, and Locatelli has played him very well. With his physicality, which actually it's a feature that Verratti doesn't have, but also with his distributions, with his runs, with his goals that proved decisive against Switzerland. So obviously for Mancini, it's a very tough decision to take off Locatelli from the midfield. But with Verratti in the midfield, Verratti did topped all the important stats against Wales. He's a world-class player, and he gives more quality to the midfield because him and Jorginho can bring the ball forward in a very elegant and technical way. In fact, in Italian, Verratti is called Mezzala di possesso, which means basically an inside midfielder who goes up, passing the ball to the flanks, creating those triangular positions that are helpful in a 4-3 formation. And on the other side, then you have Barella, who provides the trans into the half spaces, given also that usually the right fullback for Italy does not cut inside, but either remains at the back to form a back three during the build-up or else stays outside. But usually it's the right winger that stays outside to give Barella the chance to run half space. Whereas on the other side, Spinazzola usually cuts inside while Insigne goes outside to form the asymmetrical five up front as well. Florenzi and Chiellini obviously will be missed. Chiellini more so, because Di Lorenzo did a good job against Turkey in particular, and Di Lorenzo is also helpful if he remains at the back to form the back three, which Mancini likes a lot during the build-up. Even though at that point I would also consider Toloi, because usually at Atalanta he plays that role, but Di Lorenzo is also a good solution as well. And I think even in the hierarchy, Di Lorenzo is ahead of Toloi. Italy have a lot of records. Win unbeaten streak, clean sheet streaks, which Donnarumma could equal and overcome today. Dino's of record back into the 70s. And that's not something to take for granted, given the 2018 fiasco. Also, Mancini did a really good job. I don't expect them to lose against Austria. The only problem might be the fullbacks, when the fullbacks go up and they leave a bit of space behind. But to be fair, Austria didn't really impress me so far in this tournament. They might change their formation today for 1-4-1 with Grealish to man mark Jorginho, and there are still question mark about whether Arnautovic will start or not. With maybe the Stuttgart forward that I won't going to mention because I don't really know how to pronounce him. Stuttgart forward, who is 6'5" tall there up front, he might go up there because according to Austrian reporters, Arnautovic may be tired, but I don't know about this, so we'll have to see. That might change a bit because the Stuttgart striker likes to remain static, whereas Arnautovic may, do those around.
He's more fluid. Yeah. It's interesting you do talk about the Austrian formation. The last two matches, the matches against Ukraine and North Macedonia, they played 4-3-2-1-ish formation. But against the Netherlands, they played with three at the back with two wing backs. And because it is Italy, I do wonder if they'll match up to their wing backs, because Ukraine and North Macedonia did not play with wing backs. So I do think Ulmer and Liner will be the two wing backs, Ulmer on the left and Liner on the right. And they'll basically match up to Italy's.
So at that point, where would you put Alaba? Because that's
a very good question. When they did play with three at the back, he played at centre back.
But I do miss him. But I do think that they miss his qualities, in going up.
100%. 100%.
And to be fair, against Austria, against the Netherlands, he didn't play really well at the back. To be fair, he did a couple of mistakes in timing and positioning that obviously reflect on his behavior as a centre back, because one cannot compare his centre back position at Bayern Munich because they play 60 meters
team. Yeah.
Of Neuer. They are in the offensive half already. So and he often ends up in the box. Whereas with Austria, he will play really at the back, and it's not easy to come up and provide those glimpses of qualities that are important for Austria.
I think Italy's number one goal obviously will be to win. But the way to pin Alaba back and make sure Austria don't exploit his strengths is to bring those fullbacks up as quickly as possible. You'll have Jorginho in there who'll probably fill in front of the two centre-backs, Spinazzola and Di Lorenzo do fly up. Talk about Jorginho, actually. He's the unsung hero of this Italy team, 100%. He can be the Claude Makélélé of 2004, the 2002 France squad, or not 2002, but 2000 France squad. He is.
You mentioned 04 and 02 competitions in which they really did bad. So
Yeah.
Congrats
Oh,
to
I
you.
meant it was 2000. But yeah,
But actually in 2000 it was the Champs, eh? That was the Champs. He was the schemer for the team.
true. That's very true. Deschamps as a manager is probably a little bit bad than Deschamps as a manager, but that's a compliment to him because he's such an incredible footballer. I was on about Jorginho. I think he's completed the most passes for the Italian team. I think the reason why people want Verratti in for Jorginho is because Jorginho isn't spoken about enough. You look at him in the first two matches, everything went through him. He was the trigger to everything. When he turned around, you see a third man run elsewhere. If he turned around the other side, there was a third man run the other side. He is so key, very key to this Italian team. I think if you took him out, they won't function the same, in my honest opinion.
If you put him out, you lose that press-resistant midfielder. No, that is very key for Italy, especially in their build-up. No, and that's why Verratti could be helpful, of course, because if they man-mark Jorginho, there's Verratti who can easily take possession and make the most of it as well. So Italy, with both of them, have two quality solutions for them to go up forward into the field. So yeah, for this game, I'd go for Italy win 2-0. I hope that for Immobile, he doesn't take a lot of chances to score his first goal in a game because it took him always 3-4 chances to score. And that's the main concern for me at the moment. The fact that they are relying on a striker who has to miss a lot of chances before he breaks his duck during a game. And if he managed to capitalize early on his chances, that will be helpful for Italy because then they can rely on a bomber to use the Italian language.
Yeah. If Austria keep it tight up until just after half time, I think they'll probably try and take a little bit of more of a risk. They'll probably aim for penalties. I'm not being funny. They'll probably try to kill the game as much as possible. Try to slow the game down as much as possible. So I'm hoping Italy do sort of up the tempo and make it as entertaining as possible. The emphasis is on Italy. The pressure is on Italy, and hopefully they can take that pressure and give us an easy win or a few goals for us neutrals to watch.
Indeed. So next game, Belgium Portugal. It's a very interesting.
Yes.
Belgium Portugal could be a game that can finish with 8 goals or 9 goals.
I agree. That is actually what I've got on my notes. I've got plenty of goals to be seen.
Unless Portugal go Euro 2016 mode and defend mid-block, low block, and just literally rely on transitions. But with this squad, I don't think so, to be fair, because they tried to do it against France and they still conceded twice. For me, Belgium are the favorites for this game, for the simple reason that for me they could actually win this tournament. The only time that I saw them suffer in brackets was the first half against Denmark, as I spoke before. But alongside Italy, I think they have been the team that played better football so far, and that's because also they've been using the 3-4-1-2 formation the 3-4-2-1 formation. That now has been accustomed to Belgium for a long time now, and it seems when you watch Belgium play, you are like watching a club playing, because they really assembled their formation and they implement it in a way that whoever comes in, they play by default. They know the drills, they know the moves, and they have mastered the formation, obviously. De Bruyne has been a massive addition to the team because obviously after the Champions League final there were concerns about his injury, about his state of fitness, and that all doubts have vanished because his performance, especially against Denmark, the way he came in, the way he changed the game, speaks volume about his quality. I'm really surprised about Witsel and Hazard because it looks like they haven't never been injured in the last 2 years. They came in, they came efficient. I see them vivid. I see them, trying to do a lot of things. Especially Hazard, he really came in very well, very natural, and I think that might change a bit my thought because I had put Belgium as favorites, but given the fitness level of these players, I thought they might lack quality, and when it mattered most, they might lose because of this. But with these two players playing at their best, they look a bit unstoppable now, to be fair. And obviously Romelu Lukaku, the up front, is a valuable player for this team because he capitalizes on almost every chance that Belgium create, and that's important because the 3-4-2-1, allows you to create a lot of chances, but on the other side, it may be detrimental for you because with the empty slots that you leave behind, and given Belgium's defensive line may not be the fastest. And I'm reading that actually Vermaelen might start for this game. I have no idea for which reason. Why? Most probably because he liked him against Russia, or otherwise Boyata and Denayer did not really gave Martinez security at the back. And I would understand why, because I'm not the biggest fan of neither of both of them. So, but I go for Belgium as favorites for this game. Portugal at the other end, they have a lot of defects, to be fair. And the biggest defect maybe that, given they have Ronaldo, the forward line might not be fluid as it should be, and they might struggle for depth and space and verticalization. No. But Ronaldo is very important that Jota plays because given that Ronaldo likes to go outside, Jota replaces him in the box, and even though he hasn't been starting any games in this tournament, Under Silva could also be important for this team, and even Ronaldo praises him a lot whenever they play together in qualifiers. So if Under Silva helps him a lot, and he's the real number 9 in this team. No. Renato Sanchez is an interesting new discovery for Portugal. I think finally he found himself and established himself as a very important player. His runs, his passing, his distribution, his shoot on side. I think they could really be important for Portugal. Also, not to play defensively with a double pivot with Danilo and William Carvalho, two static midfielders. No, with Renato Sanchez, you have an athletic player who is dynamic as well. But they still concede a lot of goals. And having Pepe, who did a really great season at Porto, and especially in the Champions League, and Ruben Dias, Premier League's best player, one would have expected more. They might miss João Cancelo as a fullback as well, given that Semedo is struggling. But I have a really I am concerned about their central pair. What about you?
I think my view is the same. I think I do see Belgium favourites, but they need to answer the question, are they defensively stable enough? With Timothy Castagne out, obviously you've got Meunier coming in, who's a very like-to-like replacement. But again, that restricts them replacements-wise. When you've just mentioned Vermaelen possibly coming in for Denayer or Boyata, whoever. Portugal will probably sit back a bit more. I see counter-attacks. Ronaldo, Jota, Bernardo Silva on the counter-attack against Belgium back three. I fancy Portugal scoring a couple. I think it's who outscores who on that game. But Bruno Fernandes, that's another question. Will he start? Will he be on the bench? Because Portugal did pick up a draw against the reigning world champions without Fernandes in the team.
João Moutinho could be a solution for Portugal.
I agree. I do see João Moutinho playing, especially against Belgium, a forward playing Belgium, when you might need double cover or double pivot for De Bruyne. Portugal have faced wing backs twice in the competition. And obviously Belgium play with the wing backs. We have got Hungary, wing backs defensive, and also Germany when they conceded 4 goals. That's another reason why I think Portugal will probably struggle. Defensively, Nelson Semedo. I was looking at a lot of people talking about Nelson Semedo's defensive ability. He's been quite poor. Going forward, he's very good. He's very good going forward. He's good at overlapping. Probably doesn't cut inside as much as Cancelo did. So, as you said, Cancelo was a massive, massive loss for Portugal. He gives them that little bit extra. As to defensively for Portugal, Lukaku up against Ruben Dias or Pepe, whoever. I think he'll probably pick Ruben Dias. to mark on, because Lukaku likes to rest on one centre back and sort of let him know he's there. I think the experience of
it's too intelligent for him, no?
I totally agree. I think he'll go with a little bit of inexperience. Don't get me wrong, Ruben Diaz is experienced, but Pepe's got way more experience. So I think Lukaku will probably go to the left-hand side of the defence where Ruben Diaz is, and probably aim to turn and shoot on there, because as you know, that's what Lukaku loves to do. He likes to put his body weight on the centre-back. Once he receives the ball, he waits for the defender to commit. Once the defender commits, he'll try and rotate the defender and go around him. And I think Ruben Diaz is probably the more likely victim, let's just say.
Indeed, I agree with you. So your prediction is Belgium?
I'm going Belgium. I'm going to go 3-2 Belgium.
Belgium. Okay, that's interesting. Another favourites in this tournament are France, of course. No, France, Switzerland, which might look a light draw for France, because Switzerland are good, but I think for their quality, for the standard of players they have, they might have struggled a bit extra in the group stages against Italy and Wales. To be fair, I haven't been mesmerized by France yet. Their attack, with Giroud, with Mbappe, Griezmann, and Benzema. Mbappe needs to score yet. No, Griezmann hasn't been much involved in the final third as he usually does, and Benzema has scored twice against Portugal. So that's the question: whether he's finally find his form, he's finally find his tune in this tournament, or whether that was a one-off occasion. No, I think the technical leader for this team is Pogba, who has been doing a really great job as an inside midfielder or in the two-man midfield, and being responsible and being held account for every attack they make, to be fair. So far, France did not find a lot of difficulties in the game. I mean, they've won just one, though, with an own goal. And the main difficulty was Hungary, of course. But somehow I feel that they let slip their game from their hands, because actually in the first half, they quite dominated the game. And then against Portugal, they were already qualified, so they didn't.
It was a very messy game, yeah.
The injuries are the main concern now with Digne, Lucas Hernandez, with Rabiot finishing as left back against Portugal. I think if Hernandez and Digne do not recover, we might see Lenglet center back and Dubois left back. We have to wait and see the late fitness test. And the main concern for the team is, from my point of view, maybe they will go into games a bit relaxed, given their quality they have. No? That's the only defect I can find in this team so far, because otherwise, obviously, they are a great group of players that might start to peak as time goes by, game after game. No, and like we've seen again in Euro 2016, they did get good results, but against Romania they scored in the final minutes, even against Albania. So, and in the World Cup 2018, I remember a drab draw against Denmark in final game, I think so, and they struggled against.
In the last 16, they were 1-0 down against Ireland, I believe. In the World Cup.
That was in 2016. Last 16,
that was 16, that was 2016, yeah.
They played against Argentina in 2018, and that was a crazy game as well. But in the 2018 World Cup group, they were against Australia, if I'm not mistaken. The first game they won with a penalty. And the second game against Peru, they won late in the game with a very fortunate goal. So it's a team that starts to be game after game, especially when it matters most. So we have to see about it. And Switzerland on the other side, they have Mbolo and Shaqiri, who are really seem to have sparked into life in this tournament. Shaqiri is always like that for Switzerland now.
He loves a good tournament goal.
And he sparks those rumors about him, about Liverpool not selling him or whether he deserves a big club. Then we go back into the club level, and Shaqiri once again
comes back to what he was. Yeah.
So my interesting matchup is to see Manuel Akanji at the back, given he's one of Dortmund's best players against some of the best strikers in the world, to see how he copes. So far, he hasn't been at his best, but we have to see whether this Petkovic side might cause an upset. We have to see.
This might be a shop window for Akanji. Talking about Akanji, he might push a move if he does play when a few big clubs do come in for him. Because you look at the Premier League teams, and most of them need centre-backs. So this might be a good shop window for Akanji. France, Switzerland, all I can say is I think France have had a tough, obviously they had group of death, Group F. The reason why they haven't sparkled is probably because they've had to be a bit more conservative because of the big teams they played against. Hopefully they burst into life on Monday. Switzerland, on the other hand, I think they were unlucky to finish third, in my opinion. I think the game against Wales in their first match, they should have really won that match. They were the better team, and that got them into third place in a tie against the world champions, a team who have never beaten before. So hopefully,
that's an interesting derby.
Yes, it's a derby. It's the French-speaking derby. It's brilliant.
There are a couple of good derbies, so Italy and Austria and France. Switzerland. We have to see on the borderline who are they supporting. Maybe we'll find, kind of conflicts in the families themselves.
And don't forget about the England-Germany derby. But we'll talk about that a bit.
but they are not confined, by land.
Yeah. That's true. But yeah, Euro 2016, France, Austria, as you just said, they drew 0-0. And in World Cup 2014, I believe the French beat Switzerland 5-2. I think it was about 5-2. That absolutely thrashed them.
Yes. It was the final group. It was the final group game.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was to win the group.
Because I might not have actually watched that match because it wasn't interesting.
Talk about France's forward line. Benzema, first ever footballer to score in the exact same second, which I find absolutely fascinating.
He may have did it on purpose given his qualities.
No, yeah. He's such a good player, though. He is such a good player. France have missed him. I think if they had him at the previous Euros, they probably would have won the Euros. I think they lacked that bit of spark. I know Giroud was there and he was scoring goals. But Benzema gives that something different during the game that probably France needed. And France have got him now. How can you improve the world champions? Bring a world-class striker in. There you go. Here you go. Go win the Euros. I don't see anything else than a France win. Probably 2-3-0. I hope Switzerland do something. I do see Mbolo causing the backline problems, especially as some... you've got a couple of injuries back there, but not too many problems. I'm going to go with a straightforward France 2-0 win. So
let's go a bit quick now. We have final 15 minutes, more or less.
Have we mentioned Netherlands, Czech Republic?
Let's go to that. We take 5 minutes on that. Netherlands have replied to critics, especially De Boer. He put his reputation online to play with a 3-5-2 formation, given his failures at Inter, Crystal Palace and Atlanta United. I mean, he's really done a great job now. And to be fair, given the bracket they are in now, I fancy them going straight to the final. Because they have a very good team. The team has mastered the 4-3-5-2 formation in a fortnight's time. At the back, they have De Ligt and De Vrij, Daley Blind, who assembled a very great partnership as well at the back. And obviously, Dumfries has been especially good for them. I think the 3-5-2 has helped him to excel and showcase his talents. Interesting fact about Dumfries is that back in 2014 he played a couple of matches for Aruba in the CONCACAF. So,
that's very interesting.
And he scored against Guam. He scored against Guam as well. So it was a 90-minute rocket shot. You can check that on YouTube, I hope. So yeah, it was an interesting journey. My interesting take about the Netherlands is that Depay looks like a very committed and passionate player for this team, and that's very important. One might have doubts about his behavior, his attitude as a player, but so far I think he's done a great job for the Netherlands, and his goals will be important as well. Obviously, alongside Wijnaldum and De Jong, who it's too easy to speak about them because they are brilliant midfielders. And obviously, one mention to Deron, another Atalanta player that, at this point, Atalanta has hijacked this tournament.
He is going to be, Deron will be important simply because of those late runs that I've mentioned before the England-Czech Republic game. Interesting, you do mention the back line. De Vrij got the most ball recoveries out of any defender. in the tournament. Obviously, the one game where the Dutch were sort of questioned defensively was against Ukraine, but that was without De Ligt, and De Ligt is in now, and he seems to have settled the ship a bit at the back. Dumfries, I agree with you. Dumfries is the key player going forward, along with Depay and obviously De Jong. The only question mark with the Netherlands is probably the manager. I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about the fact that the Dutch actually don't rate De Boer that much. I think people are questioning his managerial abilities. As we've mentioned before, going from a back four to a back five for a Dutch team is criminal in its own. But his managerial ability and man management have been questioned anyway. For the Czech Republic, we'll a couple of seconds on them. Soufal, he's the key player. He's the man they go to. They do love a late run. You've got Souček, Holeš, Derrida, who do make late runs. Obviously, Schick, was the joint top scorer before the last set of matches. Czech Republic can cause Netherlands a few problems, in my opinion. Having said that, I am going to go for a Netherlands win. I'm going to go 2-1 Netherlands.
There is one concern about the Czech Republic was they have Captain Derrida injured. So they are not sure whether he will play or not. Played obviously all 3 games, and it could be a heavy blow for them. But we have to wait and see. And obviously, Patrick Schick, whether he will continue his hot form into the knockout stages, where games now will matter more than the group stages. For them, having qualified from these group stages is already massive. They may have missed the chance to stamp their authority on this group in the second half against Croatia, because then against England they didn't really present themselves, and they didn't have to, be fair, because they are already qualified. So, but we have to wait and see.
I think Czech Republic have sort of might like the fact they came third. You've got there in the sort of so-called easier half of the draw. You win this game, you play Denmark or Wales. It's a quarter-final that they would have taken at the start of the tournament.
And they did beat England in their latest encounter before the group stage match. So if they meet in the semi-finals, you never know.
Also, they had a fixture in 2004.
There has been a computer prediction that said that Czech Republic will face England in the semi-finals again. But this time
I'll take that.
It will be the Czech Republic that wins.
I won't take that.
Speaking about Czech Republic's other opponents in the group, Croatia-Spain is a very interesting game. About 2 teams that almost flopped in the group stages, but suddenly they face each other in the last 16.
Yes, Croatia-Spain's a good one. Spain will dominate possession. There's no two ways about it. I think Croatia will probably set up the same as they did at Wembley against England, but hopefully be more ruthless on the counter-attack. And I'm going to be honest, group stage is a totally different tournament to what we've got in the last 16. In my opinion, tournaments, when you get a group stage in a tournament, you've got 2 sets of the tournament. You've got group stage and then the knockouts. You play one way in the group stage, you try and get out the group stage, and the knockout stage is totally different, totally irrelevant to the group stage. Form does sometimes go out the window. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we come to Germany. But knockout stages are entirely different. And if Croatia hang on to a draw, as they did during the World Cup, you can never tell what happens. Go on and beat Spain on penalties again.
Indeed.
As so they did against Russia.
What's your prediction for this one?
Put me on the spot here. I'm going to go with Spain to win 2-1. And I think their little burst of the little flurry of goals against Slovakia will probably give them a little bit of a booster. I think it's what they needed.
I think from a Spain's point of view, finally they are capitalizing on their goals, even though Moreno and Morata are not really scoring. But given their expected goal stats, especially in the first 2 games, which was over for this massive stats, they have always dominated games with possession. They have created chances. The problem is that they weren't capitalizing on them. And now that they found the net 5 times finally and broke the record of high scoring match as well in Euro, so I think at this point even Luis Enrique won't change the formation. unless there will be some injury concerns like the one about Cesar Spilicueta, where Lorente might come in again. I see some concerns at the back when they defend and marking and set pieces. And Croatia are usually good in set pieces, no, as they've shown the group stages already. So we have to wait and see. Croatia obviously have a brilliant midfield, Brozovic, Kovacic, and Modric. Yeah. So if they play with the same formation against Croatia with the same personnel, maybe defending mid block, but there might be an interesting matchup in the midfield in terms of possession and quality. So it will be an interesting game as well. England, Germany, I let it to you. You have.
This one's way too close to heart, but
this is your game.
I think tactically England will set up similar to Croatia. I heard that they might stick to a back four. I think Kieran Trippier will come to left back, Kyle Walker into right back. I think Maguire will start over Mings. I've mentioned before that it's quite harsh on Tyrone Mings, but Maguire gives you that little bit more. Against the Czech Republic, Maguire played way more forward passes, and it sort of unlocked the midfield and the back line a bit more. So I think that might give Maguire the nod. I don't see any changes in midfield in the double pivot as to Rice and Phillips. I know Henderson came on and got some minutes. I don't see anything else than Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. Now, on the right wing, Bukayo Saka obviously got star of the match, and he's very close to home because he's an Arsenal player. Will he start ahead of Phil Foden? I don't think so. Me personally, I would play Saka simply because he gives a bit more defensively. You watch Phil Foden during the first match against Croatia, and Foden was poor defensively. I think he gave Croatia, as you know, Croatia attacked a lot down the left, and he gave their left back and left wing a bit too much space, in my opinion. So I think Saka could carry the ball from the back into the forward positions and hit Germany on the counter attack while Golson's overlaps, for example, against the very slow Germany back line. In Mats Hummels, who hasn't had the best of tournaments, Matthias Ginter, who hasn't had the best of tournaments. Having said that, they have played against France, against Portugal, and against an awkward Hungary team. A very awkward Hungary team. There's no two ways about it. What I did love about that 2-2 game was all the German fans all socially distanced. And then you got the Hungary fans who said, screw social distancing, we're all staying all behind the goal. But I think health and safety had something to do with that. But predictions-wise, I'm not saying anything because I don't want to jinx. But there's a sneaky feeling in the country that this is England's best chance to beat Germany in a major competition, in knockout competition. I hope Harry Kane hits the ground running against Germany. It's a different opposition. You've got Hummels and Ginter and Rudiger, who sometimes his temper gets the best of him, as we saw against France. Going the other way for Germany, Leroy Sané, who played at right wing back, I believe, against Hungary. And a few minutes I watched, Sané was quite poor. He was quite poor. There
is a lot of fans ready to remove Sané from the first 11.
I mean, from what
this speaks about his performance against Hungary, and obviously disappointment that there is among German fans. No?
Mm-hmm. I'm never in favour in rallies to get someone out of the team, but from what I saw, Sané doesn't deserve to be in the team again. I think there's a couple of players who could probably step in and do a better job at right wing back, especially. And Müller might come in because he was a doubt for the last group game. I think it will be a drab game. I think it will be quite slow, being honest. I think England will try and do a professional job. I saw Loris Matthäus, a German legend. He said England might beat Germany during the match, but they won't beat them on penalties. So I'm really hoping, just for that reason, that it goes to penalties and England win.
He isn't any Sherlock Holmes to say that. No.
Yeah, I don't see it being a high-scoring game. That's my only prediction for this one.
I think for the first time ever in a long time, England might actually head in as a favourites for this game.
I agree.
But obviously, I still give Germany their chances because Germany are always Germany, and they might now, compose themselves before a big game.
As I said earlier, the knockout is totally different to the group stage, and the knockout stage is Germany's place, isn't it? They're very good at knockout matches. I mean, you look at their history. I think the only times they haven't made it to the semi-final and beyond, they've got knocked out in the group stage. So there's no in between.
It is. It's really like that. I mean, in my lifetime, I remember Germany going out in the Euro 2000 group stages, 2004 group stages, 2018 group stages.
18 group stages, yep.
So actually, it was 2002 semi-final, final against Brazil, runners-up. 2006 semi-finals, 2008 another final, 2010 semi-final.
Yeah, they're quite good, aren't they, Germany?
2012 it was semi-final again. 16 another semi-final. 14 they won the World Cup, obviously. So it's either an early elimination or it's like Final Four. So this could be an uncharted territory for them if they go out. No? So we'll see.
And hopefully Gareth Southgate's men defy history and get to a quarter-final, which is a favourable draw.
Southgate has unfinished business with Germany at Wembley, so no. Like Mancini has at Wembley as well with his Sampdoria. So yes, we have to see about it. And the final last 16 game is my favorite one, of course. It's Sweden-Ukraine. It's the team that I like most with the classic 4-4-2 formation against the team that, for sure, they were already packing their baggage to go back to Kiev, and at some point they found themselves in the last 16 matchup that might actually propel them to a potential quarters, or why not a semi-final. At this point, you never know. Ukraine have nothing to lose, everything to gain. For me, Ukraine, obviously, they're lucky to be here, but they have a very good squad with very interesting players, and this might be it. We might listen about it in upcoming tournaments when they peak more, because they have really interesting players there.
They're youngsters. They're youngsters as well.
Right now,
they are a good team.
The biggest question is obviously whether Yarmolenko and Yaremchuk will step up for this game. Yarmolenko was disappointing in the last game, and Yaremchuk, given his goal-scoring record in Belgium, one might expect more numbers from him because he did well, but one might expect more from him, especially in a game that matters now, like the one against Austria. The main question about this team is where Malnovsky will play, because he usually plays an inside midfielder on the right to cut inside with his left foot, and whenever he was played as a left forward right now, he hasn't really delivered, no? So that will be a question for Shevchenko and his coaching staff to answer. On the other hand, Sweden have peaked in a glorious way in this tournament. I mean, I am a big fan of the 4-4 because 4-4-2 can help you to morph in whatever you want, defensive formation, offensive formation. It's a very flexible shape, and they are really, executing the 4-4-2 shape in a perfect manner, organized, compact, disciplined. They might have classic wingers who attack. Obviously, they might have imagined a different turn to the Ibrahimovic up front. Could be. Forsberg has been obviously doing really well, especially when they attack, because when a team is more on the offensive third, players like Forsberg excel more because they have more of the ball. They can find solutions, dribble players, and with 3 goals, obviously, that speaks a lot about his qualities. And Isaac, who a lot are praising. I am kind of still expecting something more of him. Maybe goals. I don't know. Maybe if he scores, he might change a bit my thoughts about him. And so far, whoever have played alongside him and Marcus Berg and Quaison have not really, lived up to the expectations. Obviously, Berg, I think now he's 40 years old. No, I'm joking, but he's there in every tournament. It's Marcus Berg. You never know where he's playing, but Marcus Berg is there. And Robin Quaison, who I remember back in Serie A, hasn't really lived up to the potential that he had quite a few years back. Their biggest trump card is Kulusevski. Obviously, Kulusevski is a massive talent. he's currently at Juventus now, and he came on second half against Poland, and he changed Sweden's offensive line, the way they attacked. In transitions, they were lethal, and he created the second goal, and he created the winning goal as well, playing as a second striker. So Kulusevski is a versatile player who can help Coach Anderson, to play him in different positions as a winger, as a second striker, given the players that Sweden also have. My concern about them is the defensive line as well, both in set pieces, because they've conceded some attacks on set pieces with Lindelof and Danielsen not marking really well, and whenever they faced really top class strikers, and not speaking about Murat and Morano, but Robert Lewandowski, they've struggled. Lewandowski beat them 2v1, 1-on-1, and if they will concede 1v1s at the back, Yarmolenko and Yarmolenko would be dangerous.
They, I mean, you do mention forward world-class strikers against Sweden. They won't face any up until the semi-finals at the very least.
That's it.
So
because Harry Kane is not a world-class striker. No?
That's why I said semi-finals. And that was a shot at Harry Kane. I'm glad you noticed it. I'm just having a look at the lineup. Sorry, Denmark, sort of an expected lineup against Wales. Braithwaite, Dolberg, and Damsgaard up top. No Poulsen by the looks of it.
Okay, so they will play with a central attacking midfielder with Dolberg.
Yeah, no Poulsen. Is he
Okay.
missing?
But there's Damsgaard, which is good for my fantasy team.
It doesn't look like he's on the bench either, so he might be injured.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see about.
Yeah, he's not injured. Obviously, you've got Ampadu, who's out for Wales.
Coach's quotes before the pre-match flash interview. Now we'll see whether we'll give some updates.
So no Poulsen for Denmark. That's interesting. So Schmeichel, Vestergaard, Kjær, Christensen, Male, Delaney, Højbjerg, Stig Larsson, Damsgaard, Dolberg, and Braithwaite for Denmark. Then you got Danny Ward, Roberts at right back, Rodon and Methven at centre back, Davies at left back, Morel, Allen, centre mids, James and Bale on the wings, Ramsey in behind.
Actually, Kasper Dolberg is a forward, yes, so they will play with a proper forward. We've been mentioning that they play without forwards. Kasper Dolberg is a forward, and that gives the idea that maybe they want a reference point there. Kasper Dolberg has a good story because he had his watch robbed in a halftime game with Nice, and he fought with his team during a Ligue 1 game. So let's hope it doesn't happen.
That's brilliant.
And they will play with but Wales, I'm seeing a 4 to throw with Daniel James there.
Yeah, I think it's more of a 4-5-1. I think it'll be Bale and actually, I see it might be a 4-2-3-1. It might well be 4-2-3-1.
And Dylan there and James and Bale to attack the full back lanes with Ramsey with those late runs and more a reference point. That's an interesting choice from Wales to be fair. That's an interesting choice.
I think I'm just having a look at Denmark too. I think it does make sense for Bale and James to push on, especially with the wing backs. You have to pin the wing backs as far back as possible.
They will push forward a lot.
Exactly.
So that's it. So to wrap up this first episode, a quick guide to our fantasy teams, which will give us a hard time. So I start with mine. I did a couple of changes today, actually before this show, because I kept Stekelenburg as goalie from Holland, and at the back I've got Blind, Spinazzola, and Mele. But I switched the formation to the 4-3. Now I've got a 3-4-3, which allows me to have Wijnaldum, De Bruyne, Berardi, and Damsgaard there in the midfield. Because Damsgaard in the fantasy is put as midfielder and not as a forward, and he cost like 4.5.
I've taken advantage of that too, yeah.
And obviously just up front I got Ronaldo, Captain Benzema, and Lukaku. Somehow one of them has to go to the final. What the hell? I'm regretting the moment I didn't get Depay. So we have to see about it. And on the bench I've got Mike Maignan, but I had to choose someone that won't play to not use a lot of money. And I've got Dumfries, which might help me to change the formation to back 4 or keep the back 3, but remove someone who won't get 3 points, more than 3 points. And then Kulusevski, who might be a trump card on the final game of these last 16, and Zabarny, the Ukraine defender, because that allows me to have someone from Ukraine should they qualify against Sweden.
I think that's by the way, that's a very good team. I think Netherlands and Italy are sort of the two countries to look at here. I think you've got Austria for Italy, and I know they've got a tougher fixture in the future in the next round. If they do qualify, they should. But with Holland or Netherlands, you've got Czech Republic, and after that you've got Wales or Denmark. So preferably, it's the same for Denmark. Really, you get in play as early as possible. I've gone for Donnarumma in goal in a 4-3-3 formation. You've got Dumfries, Meunier, Augustinsson from Sweden, and Kjær from Denmark, who is starting today. Forsberg, Wijnaldum, and Ramsey in the middle. Ramsey was a bit cheaper because I think he had a tougher group, so I think they made him a bit cheaper than he should supposed to be, so I took advantage of that. Griezmann, Lukaku, and Immobile up top. Immobile is my captain. Next match week, depending on who goes through, I think I might put Lukaku as captain because I can see him moving the Italian defence around a bit. But on the bench, I've got Olsen from Ukraine, from Sweden, who play Ukraine. Soufal on the bench, Damsgaard on the bench, and Granit Xhaka on the bench. Again, who guarantees you points because he'll play a full game. So I thought a cheaper option, safe option.
You kept Damsgaard on the bench, and they play today. Yeah, pay attention.
I know. I've got 53, 57 minutes, 56 minutes now to make my final team. And I think I might stick with that unless I swap Ramsey in for Damsgaard. And my other option is to take Meunier out because they play Portugal and put Soufal in, who play Netherlands. But I think Netherlands might put a couple past Czech Republic, so I'll keep him on the bench.
Yeah, and the fullback against Portugal nowadays it's an easy attacking weapon. So
Yep, totally agree. Yeah, that's my team, and I'm really hoping that England go through, and I might, depending on if he plays and if he plays well, I think Bukayo Saka might be a good option.
Should you remove the problem is that should you remove Damsgaard, you have to replace him with a midfielder, because at 5 million there are a lot of interesting defenders. I've seen Aspilicueta, Eric Garcia, Hummels, Ginter. The Croatia backline is almost all there. It's Kaleta Char, Vida. So
I think the only issue with that is that the winner of Croatia-Spain play France in the next round. I think that's what you need to look at.
You can do 3 transfers before the quarterfinals. So I know what you mean, because now you have to pick up the players from the team that you think might go a long way. So that's true.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, Croatia, Spain, I avoided it because even England, because those two are risky games with it.
Yeah, especially with disciplinary reasons. I see England, Germany being quite scrappy, and obviously Belgium, Portugal too.
It is. So that brings us to the end of our first episode, and it's been great to
yes.
speak to you as always. Let's hope that this project carries on.
Yes, I agree.
So far, so good. Thankfully, didn't have any problems so far. Enjoy the last 16 games, and we will be back after the last 16 games. In that gap between last 16 and quarterfinal. And now, with the less the games, the more we'll have chance to discuss the games in a more in-depth way. Sharing screen with graphics and stats and everything.
I think if we went into more detail, we'll probably still be in the second game.
Most probably even in the first, because we started and now we got the formation, so we'll start with it once again. So
yes.
But hopefully we can do that, when we have less games and everything else. So yes, thanks you, Dylan. I really appreciate it. I hope that we do well in fantasy. We are not in the same league, so I wish you good luck. You told me that you are being
good luck.
Girlfriend or not?
Sorry?
You are being bettered by your girlfriend in fantasy?
That's on the predictions. She didn't create a fantasy team, but yeah, predictions wise, she's absolutely thrashing me. I think she's got 2 points than me. We'll cut that bit out.
Lovely. Well, mine is embarrassing me on fantasy. So
there we go. Maybe we should have them both on guests and teach us how to play fantasy and predict us.
Lovely, Dylan. It was a great one. It was a great first, and enjoy the games. Make sure to take down some notes during the games, and we'll discuss everything.
I will.
We might actually discuss, might do some review about 16 and then preview about quarterfinals. So combine a bit.
Yeah.
Mostly about the teams that would have qualified for it also. But that will allow us to, do a review about what happened now in these games. Some testing mashups. Looking forward to it. Sweden, Ukraine, my biggest game. So lovely. That's good. Let's do it.
Brilliant. All right. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the matches. Thank you.
Bye.